Picture this, it's 1945. The war is over, and sitting in the rubble of Germany is a bombed-out car factory. Every single major automaker in the world is offered this factory for free, and every single one of them turns it down. Fast forward to today, and that same rejected factory is now the heart of a global empire that brings in more money than the entire country of Denmark. So how on earth did that happen? Well, this is the incredible story of Volkswagen.
You know, this story has everything. Failure, rebirth, massive scandal, and constant reinvention. It all boils down to one question. How did a factory that Henry Ford II himself called worthless manage to transform into one of the largest, most powerful corporations on the entire planet?
All right, so let's dive into Chapter 1. And the crazy thing is, this whole story doesn't start with some brilliant business plan cooked up in a boardroom. Nope. It starts with a bit of quick thinking on a battlefield, a move that would literally change the course of automotive history. Okay, we have to be upfront about this. Volkswagen's beginnings are, well, they're pretty dark and complicated. It was actually started as a prestige project by the Nazi regime to create a people's car. And during the war, the factory used forced labor to build military vehicles. So, that brings us to 1945. The war is over, the factory's a wreck, and it's under British control. Its future, completely up in the air.
This is the guy who basically saved Volkswagen. His name was Major Ivan Hurst, a British officer, and he saw something that nobody else did. He looked at all that rubble and saw potential. He actually patched up an old Beetle prototype, slapped some army green paint on it, and managed to top his bosses into ordering 20,000 of them for the troops. And that one order? That was the lifeline the company needed just to stay alive.
So, with the company back on its feet, it set its sights on America. But you have to remember, back in the 1950s, the US market was all about giant cars with massive chrome VINs. So what was VW's solution? An advertising campaign that is now literally the stuff of legend. Instead of trying to hide that the Beetle was tiny, they leaned into it. They made its size a virtue with just two simple words: think small. It was so honest, so clever, and it totally changed the game, turning this weird little German car into an American cultural icon.
And you know what? That brilliant marketing led to this. Just a staggering number. Over its lifetime, more than 21.5 million Beetles were sold. That's more than the legendary Ford Model T. At the time, it became the best-selling single-car model in history. I mean, talk about a comeback for a car that was literally born from rubble.
But, you know, the Beetle couldn't be the answer forever, and that's a key theme with Volkswagen. Its story isn't just about success, it's about facing these huge crises that force them to either reinvent themselves or just disappear.
So, by the early 70s, the Beetle was basically ancient technology, and VW was, honestly, on the verge of going bust. They had to make a massive gamble. They threw out their iconic rear-engine design and created something completely new, the Golf, a modern front-engine car. And that pivot from old school to modern, it's what saved the company and became its new commercial backbone for the next 50 years. Now, the next huge crisis. This one was totally self-inflicted, and it almost destroyed the company's reputation. I'm talking, of course, about Dieselgate. In 2015, the world found out that VW had been deliberately cheating on emissions tests. They'd installed special software in 11 million diesel cars to fool the regulators. It was, without a doubt, one of the biggest corporate scandals ever. And the financial fallout? Absolutely staggering. This number you see, $14.7 billion, that was just the first settlement in the US alone. The final bill around the world was way, way higher. And the damage to public trust, you can't even put a price on that.
But here's the crazy twist in the story. This disaster actually forced another reinvention. To repair their image, they had to go all in on something, and they chose electric vehicles. They dumped tens of billions of dollars into EVs, basically fast-forwarding their plans by years. So, in a strange way, the scandal over their dirty diesel engines is what pushed them to become a leader in clean electric cars.
So, okay, surviving crises and reinventing yourself is one thing. But how did Volkswagen become a full-blown empire? Well, the answer lies in their third big strategy. They started collecting other car brands like they were trading cards.
I mean, just take a look at this lineup. It's incredible. Under one big VW umbrella, you've got everything from an affordable Skoda all the way up to a multi-million-dollar Bugatti. You've got premium Audis, iconic Porsches, and super luxe Bentleys. This house of brands approach is genius, really. It lets them dominate almost every part of the market and share technology costs across the entire empire.
And get this is the real shocker for a lot of people.
Even though the whole company is called Volkswagen, the actual VW brand itself only brings in about 40% of the money. The other 60%, the majority, comes from all those other brands they bought. Porsche and Audi in particular are just massive profit engines for the group.
So they've survived the past. They've built this massive empire. What's next? Well, Volkswagen is now making some huge bets on a future that looks nothing like the past that got them here.
And their strategy is pretty clear. First, they want to make electric cars affordable for everybody, just like they did with the Beetle and the Golf. Second, they know their biggest weakness is software, so they're pouring money and partnerships into fixing that. And third, they want to finally conquer the American market by launching the all-electric Scout brand to compete in that super profitable truck and SUV space.
Of course, this road to the future is absolutely packed with challenges. In China, they're getting hammered by local EV competitors. They're still way behind Tesla when it comes to software, and oh yeah, trying to switch your entire global company over to electric costs an insane amount of money, all while you're trying to stay profitable. It's a huge balancing act.
So this puts VW in a really interesting spot in the global car wars. When you put them up against Toyota, VW's big advantage is they're further along with pure electric cars. When you compare them to Tesla, their strength is that incredible portfolio of brands and their massive manufacturing power. Their biggest challenge is to protect their home turf in Europe while finally figuring out how to win in China and North America.
And all of this brings us to one last really fascinating question. When you look back at their history, from the Beetle to the Golf and now to their electric ID cars, it becomes pretty clear that this company's real skill isn't just making cars, it's their ability to completely transform. So, is Volkswagen just a car company, or has it evolved into something else entirely? A mobility company that has proven time and again that it can pivot and master whatever new technology is required to put the world on wheels. I guess we'll just have to see what the next chapter holds.